welcome back. Now first off, you may see a shipping blanket on the S10, and I'm not wearing sleeves, and it is December. Now it is roughly 70 degrees out here. I could probably be wearing shorts right now. I'm actually so warm. There's actually a storm coming through that is predicted to have golf ball size hail, so I decided to cover the windows. And when I get done, I have one to cover the front end of this to try to protect it. The s10 is covered as well. But now on to what I'm going to go working on today. Now on this S10, obviously we have this ugly air cleaner assembly. It's not going to do anything any justice. Don't perform well, and they don't look very good either. Now this is a twin studded throttle body. So really, in the aftermarket, what I've seen is you're kind of limited to just basically buying the chrome air cleaner lid itself, but you're still stuck with this somewhat restrictive air cleaner and basically this ugly, bulky mess. Now, it's not just restrictive in fact of this, it also is a drop base air cleaner, which is not really the best for performance. Now, I got something else that's been laying around. I got a chrome air cleaner lid that I'm going to modify to fit the twin studs, and the air cleaner base is actually one I've had laying around. I save for stuff like this. I'll show y'all in a minute. And now, yes, I could have went out and found a throttle body with a single stud and used it, but one, I'd have to find one running so I know it's good, and I already know this one's good. Two, I can buy a new one or a rebuilt one, but I just don't feel that's in the budget just yet, since I'm waiting on to see how the seats turn out, because I may change seats completely depending on how they turn out and how the budget is. So since that one is running good as is, I'll leave it alone and just modify an air cleaner for it. Now this may help some of you out that have this situation with a twin studded throttle body and you want a different air cleaner and you want to look better. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. Alright, so here's a look at the factory air cleaner assembly. No, it has a smaller air filter than your aftermarket air cleaners usually do. We have somewhat of a drop base here, and we have these humps in here that will somewhat impede airflow to the throttle body, as well as this inlet here with this little heat riser flap that is also somewhat restricted for flow even when it's open. Not much, but a little bit. Now I'm switching to this raised base. It's a lot smoother. High flow air filter that's actually from the work truck. So this is actually staying budget because this is used. All I did was clean it. The only reason I actually took it off was because of the color scheme on the work truck I'm going with. I wanted an air filter that will match, and this is actually supposed to be red. You can tell it's used, so it's not as red as it should be. So this one will actually kind of go along with the color scheme on the S10, and since I already had laying off the other truck, it is actually going to keep us within budget as well. Now hopefully you can see this pretty well. What I have here is a short bolt that is siliconed on both sides to this old Edelbrock air cleaner. Now it is a bit rusted up, it's got some pitting on it. You can see the bolt is stuck in place now to cover that hole, but since this is rusted up and has been laying around for a while, it's a perfect candidate for this little project. Now, to try to keep this straight and neat looking with the words that it should be, with the twin studs, we're not going to have room for movement to actually line it back up straight. So the attempt here is to have this arrow actually match the center of this and keep it straight when I lay this down. And try to keep it right where it'll look right. Now I'm going to try and split the difference all the way around. Which this is the somewhat tedious part. Now luckily, since the air cleaner lid is old, rusted out, and it's been laying around, it was a good candidate for this project because I'm not messing up a brand new one. So if you got one laying around already, it's probably best just to go ahead and use an old used one before trying this with a new nice clean one, because then you could just straight up transfer from the old used one to the new one if you get it exactly where you want it. But now I'm going to mark where I need to drill my holes. Now that looks about right, because these are not centered to here. They're actually a little bit back from this, and that's about where these are. So we look pretty close. Now here you can use a step-up bit, a pilot bit, or a punch. Whichever one you want. Use a punch first, so that way you can drill the hole exactly where you need to. Then you can use your step-up bit if you want to use a step-up bit, or your pilot bit. So we're going to do that first, then we'll take the larger drill bit that we need, which, there we go, this 5/16 is what I'm going to use for this size hole. Now you can start with any size smaller pilot bit that you want. Now, one thing we are missing is this raised flat section right here, and I'm going to attempt to recreate that. Now, how successful this is going to be, I'm not sure. This is the first time doing something with an air cleaner lid like this, so I'm not 100% sure how it's going to turn out. But I'm going to use one of these impact sockets and a washer. And I'm going to start hitting on this side, try to raise this side first. And see if it'll do anything. Now that didn't get me anywhere, so try the ball peen side. Now it is raising up a little bit. And all I'm wanting is something to basically for the wing nuts to rest on and stay tight on. So I'm going to work this a little bit until I get it right about where I want it. Now with a little more hammering, you can see that I have gotten it somewhat. It's going to be a little flatter up there for it to rest on, and I think that's going to work. Now, this is not the prettiest air cleaner lid. I'm going to try to use some chrome polish and maybe some buffing compound and get most of this rust out. But now you can see it's lined up. This is probably fairly straight, actually. So, it can be done. The flat spots I hammered out seem to work pretty well. Now, I should be able to tighten it down more, but with a lack of stud, I'm still going to have to make longer studs. But that's alright. Alright, now, it's obvious I need about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of studs sticking out of here in order for these to tighten down a little bit better and easier. But that's alright. I'm going to change this. As y'all know, I've talked about raising it up into the cowl induction and making that functional. Now, if you are doing something like this and you don't have the cowl induction, or like the previous owner, you don't want to, the previous owner cut out the frame here, but if you don't want to cut out the framework in your cowl induction hood, that's alright. You don't have to run the raised base air cleaner like the one I'm running, and it'll actually fit under here like the factory air cleaner did, and I was able to keep the hood shut, no problem. So there is that. But since I'm going to go ahead and raise it up higher into the cowl induction and make that functional, I'm going to use this 2-inch air cleaner spacer, and all I'm going to have to do is actually take this piece of all thread and cut it to length. And this is going to be easy to do because I'm just going to take the length off one of these studs already, add 2 inches for the spacer, and then I'll probably add 3/8, maybe 1/2 an inch, just so I can have a little bit more above the wing nut sticking out to make sure there's plenty of thread on the wing nut to keep the air cleaner on. Which this will not be a challenge at all. So I'm going to get to work on this and just cut me 2 studs off, and I'll put it back together. Alright, there it is. It don't look half bad. It works. Now the drawback to this is, since I am keeping this engine fuel injected, there's a lot exposed now, and it's going to be a lot more detail work to make it look a lot better and cleaner. Now, the last check is just to make sure that the hood will actually shut. I don't think it's too tall. But since I don't have inner fenders in, it's pretty easy to look, see how close it is. And that's it. It fits. I was able to actually reach up in there and put my finger on top of the wing nut and move it around a little bit. There's plenty of clearance. Now, I was actually hitting this little glue that they have here that's left over, and that actually comes down about 3/8 of an inch. So I was actually hitting that instead of the hood, so I have plenty of hood clearance actually. So that's good. Now, as I said earlier, if you don't have a cowl induction or don't want to cut the frame out, you don't have to bring it that high. I like it set higher, and I'm going to make the cowl induction functional, and that will come up later. Now, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. Make sure you're subscribed because there's plenty of work to do on this. And as always, thanks for watching. It didn't take very long after the recording of that video for this to start popping up. It probably doesn't look that dark on the camera, but it's getting pretty dark pretty fast. Hopefully we won't have the 60-mile-an-hour wind, the chance of tornadoes, or the golf ball size hail they predicted. Well, we just had 75-mile-an-hour wind, and the truck stopped down the road on the highway. It looked like the awning for the diesel semi-trucks had actually blown over and fallen on a couple semis. I was actually gone, so I just got back. I'm going to go check the S10 and see what happened. But luckily, so far, things don't look too bad here yet. There's another patch coming behind this one, so I got a little in-between time to go check things.